Hey everybody, what's up? Blake the Scholar of Magic. I'm back. I'm back for a fantastic video today. We got Aragorn the Uniter up in this house. He's that 4-color commander that we all love. He just, does all those cool things. Red, green, white, blue casting costs, 4 total. Legendary creature, human noble. Whenever you cast a white spell, create a 1/1 white human soldier token. Whenever you cast a blue spell, scry 2. Whenever you cast a red spell, Aragorn the Uniter deals 3 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a green spell, target creature gets 4/4 until end of turn. Now let's look at some of the new cards that we got and kind of digest Aragorn's modes. We're definitely going to look at that 1/1 token, the things that kind of hit the board, right? We're going to be looking at that damage to the face. We're going to be looking at how we can take advantage of higher powered creatures. We're going to put it all together into like a nice tidy storm list. I think you're going to enjoy this one very much. Now, primarily with this kind of archetype, you kind of have to, make sure that the creatures are pulling their weight, because you predominantly have to play a lot of instants and sorceries, and typically low cost casting ones. So we'll definitely have to hit the board with like our young pyromancers, our third path iconoclasts, our monastery mentors. We're just going to have some really nice 1 and 2 drops too, like even mana dorks. We're going to have a couple mana dorks. We're even going to be playing like cards like FOMO, Fear of Missing Out, like just some nice targets for our instants and sorceries that kind of can help us get us there. So we got to play low to the ground instants and sorceries, and low to the ground creatures. So let's see what we got going on. So there's some new cards. This one's from Dustmore, Leyline of Resonance. This actually got banned in Standard because you can imagine just playing like a couple copy of this in your deck, and you're just like kind of, playing this for free. And then all of a sudden your monstrous rages are going to get doubled up, and whatever else that you like kind of get that 1 mana gas, those cantrippy cards are just going to kind of, take you to the finish line pretty fast. So this one's a nice one where whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So there's some nice verbiage to kind of get it and kind of get used to, like single target or like a single creature. You can't copy like multiple instances to like get this trigger. It has to be a spell that targets only one creature at a time, and then you get to copy it, and you may choose a new target for the copy. So that is interesting. So honestly, like my favorite ones to do are just like your 1 mana red spells that will target a creature give them some sort of benefit, and then what you'll do is you'll just draw from that. Sometimes there's some downsides too. Like sometimes you have to actually deal damage to your creatures for some of these 1 mana red cantrips, which is very interesting. But why do we like red? Well, red is kind of primarily like the way we kind of buttress this deck. Most of the cantrips are preferred to be red because we're going to have a lot of creatures that kind of create red based on spells that you cast. And that will kind of get explained, but we really, really prefer red because we're going to be banking a lot of red mana. So in that case, when we look at Aragorn, if we're going to be banking that red mana, we're definitely be playing an abundance of those three damage spells, right? We definitely want to emphasize that, doing that commander 3 damage ping, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? So let's think of this. There's even some newer sick cards, and I've used this for my my mutate decks, of course, but it just fits so well here. When you have a spell, an instance, or sorcery that copies a single target, go ahead and copy that onto a new 1/1 fresh red soldier creature token. This frontline heroism is an all-star. It's going into most of my decks. It's only like 80 cents. You can get a bunch of these. I think I have about 30. And on my 300 subscriber giveaway, I'm gonna give you a couple of these because they're just so sick, and everybody should have one. They definitely fit into multiple archetypes. It's just a fantastic card. Let's think about O'Hare. Now, O'Hare has really interesting verbiage, so I meant to like reread this card because I was always thinking like, well, what if I have like a Crackle with power and like I deal more than his power? Look, notice in the verbiage it says less than. So for instance, we have an Aragorn and an O'Hare, and O'Hare has 4 power. So instead of that damage to the face only dealing 3, it will deal 4 because O'Hare's power will be 4. Now think about buffing up O'Hare, like just play a single green casting cost, like a Legolas Quick Reflex, for instance. And now all of a sudden we have an 8/8 O'Hare. And now all the red spells we play for that turn are going to deal 8 damage to the face. So that just kind of speeds up the commander clock too for Aragorn. So that's just a really nice payoff. It also has a fun like little clause here that if it dies, it could always come back if we deal 4 or more combat non-creature. It's 4 or more non-combat damage to a turn. We can actually pay 3 and tap this again, and it will come back onto the battlefield. So obviously it will be tapped because we had to tap it. But then all of a sudden we have O'Hare back on the battlefield. So it's kind of an interesting like little feature of this deck card. Of course, it gives it a little more longevity. So we kind of like dig that. Definitely very cool. Here is Zada, the Hadron Glider. Hedron Grinder, and I don't know if you played this on Brawl, for instance, or played against it, but it's a really nasty card. I don't know what kind of queue it gets into. I don't really encounter it very often, but it's not a fun time. Basically, this is a very token-heavy deck. It's going to be Vero aggro. Basically, it's going to curve into a lot of bodies before Zada comes on the battlefield. And then you're gonna target Zada with your instant or sorcery, and it will target it for each of those creatures already on the battlefield. So like, for instance, like a Monstrous Rage onto Zada, and you have 3 more tokens on the battlefield or a couple more bodies, they're all gonna get Monstrous Raged. So it's like, what? So yeah, it copies that spell for each other creature you control that spell could target. It's just crazy. And this goes really crazy with like draw spells too. You could draw so much gas. Like, there are some newer like cantrippy cards that have come out in Outlaws and Bloomburrow. I don't have those yet. I'm still acquiring those, but I think one's called like something of the Meek, Mighty of the Meek, and the other one is just honestly, I want to be very like transparent with y'all, and I think there's a discussion for this because I noticed that like a lot of, in standard, the 20 life total really dictates like people playing like the Monstrous Rages and stuff. I can imagine if the life total would be buffed, though, the people would probably prefer those 1-mana red spells that kind of buff a little bit and draw, right? Because you're still triggering prowess, you're still playing and casting an instant or sorcery, and your things are getting buffed like by 1 each time you play one of those. So I'm just kind of curious, like even I'm kind of always kind of curious about like the standard now, and like perhaps maybe I don't see enough of those when I just am watching like YouTube, content creators play against mono red. I'm just kind of surprised you don't see more of like the Mighty of the Meek, I think, for the mouse decks. And maybe it is a 4 of, maybe I just don't play enough standard, but it was just seeing kind of like a low-key thing. There's also one other idea I want to kind of get out there for standard, and I haven't really seen it too often. I have seen it in Brawl, though, is just like the Ordeal of Nylea. Basically, that's the one that's, it's going to like to see counters on an enchanted creature, and it's basically act as like a, Vastwood Surge. It's going to just ramp you 2 lands at once, depending if you have 3 1/1 counters on a creature as you have that enchantment on the battlefield. And then also the Managorger Hydra just seems like an easy like card that just kind of wins. Like, I don't know. I feel like that has to be like the way to go. Like, I don't know if I've seen enough of that. Like, I feel like maybe we'll see like any of those RCQs. I mean, you see a lot of Dimir. You see a lot of like kind of these value piles that kind of get control-y and tempo-y. But I'm just kind of curious, like you have Llanowar Elf, you have Managorger Hydra, you also have these, you have a good amount of fetch lands, and you have a card like Ordeal of Nylea and like even a Gold Fang Hydra. Like you have all these really sweet 1/1 counter payoffs, and even like a card like Loot, which kind of can bring more lands onto the battlefield too, like the green Loot. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's just probably something there. And I think mono green's probably pretty good, but who knows? Who really knows? Maybe the 20 life total is just too little for anybody to keep up, and maybe mono red is just the de facto. But anyways, here's Narset the Enlightened Exile, and this one is just another sweet one. And I feel like this is probably one of the stronger cards in our deck. We can kind of set up and get like our Pyromancers and Iconoclast going. Then you can just slam down in Narset. Even if it doesn't swing, all of our creatures will then have prowess. So you can even have double prowess, right, with this. So, I mean, with like a Monastery Mentor. So it's just really beautiful stuff. It just, easy way to pump our team and kind of swing in. And when this thing swings, it swings. This is kind of the card you want to like set up with your FOMO and your Dreadhorde Arcanist and really go to town with, and really get value from the graveyard and have like those multiple combats and multiple instances of prowess and have like a lot of damage and value going off at once. So there's that. Those are some of the kind of the interesting cards that kind of exist in this world here. So let's just set that up here. And here's some of the other like kind of just payoffs. I'll definitely get into like the Bergy or Urabrask, and I definitely wanted to pump those up to the top, and we'll get into those, I promise. Let's just go to some of the other like payoffs for targeting our creatures, right, with instants or sorceries, and that's like a feather. Not a bad body for the mana cost, the flyer. And then when we go ahead and target a creature with one of those instants or sorceries, if this sticks to the end of turn, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So they just pop back to our hand, and that's wonderful. We just kind of do it over and over again, and we don't have to worry about gassing out. I'm not too worried about gassing out, but this kind of reminds me of the green enchantment that kind of when we target something, we draw. It's kind of similar to that. We target something, it goes to our graveyard. As it resolves, if you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of your next step. So you just draw it again, which is great. We won't be drawing lands, we'll be drawing that instant or sorcery. And it's a nice body. It triggers Aragorn's modes. It's fantastic. Now here's our token enablers. So of course we have our young Pyro here. This one just goes off of instants or sorcery, so be aware that it's not just non-creature spells. Appropriately priced though, just for the one generic, one red, very easy to cast. This one's a little harder to cast with a red-blue. So we have to definitely be responsible with our mana kind of, coverage, so to speak. But it is it colors, which is good for Aragorn. You get a scry and a ping for this. And this is just non-creature spells. So we cast non-creature spells. That will even include enchantments and artifacts, and we'll still create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token, not just instant or sorceries. So it's fantastic. Imagine these just create lots of bodies. They're definitely headaches. They're scary cards. These are very scary cards, definitely. So keep that in mind, and definitely I will too. These are scary cards to play against because, you just get rewarded for playing your cards that you're already playing. Just kind of like Aragorn, like he makes tokens. He does all these modes. You're just being benefited from just playing cards you will, like counter spells. For instance, we're not going to hate a counter spell with Monastery and Mortar on the battlefield because we're going to create another monk. And then, when it's our turn, we're going to be even stronger the next time around. So beautiful stuff. Really beautiful, guys. I hope you like the deck. This is really a fun one. Just hit me with a like. I appreciate it very much. The more likes we get, the more the video gets shared. So that's kind of how I noticed it worked. With one of my shorts, the video got liked a lot and it got shared out a lot more. So I really appreciate it. Here's Ryle. Here's 1 damage to target creature you control. That creature gains trample till end of turn. Draw a card. So this is like kind of the one where it is red. So we definitely like the red and the targets, right? So we love that about it. It will target a single target. So that's nice. The only non-bow with this is with Ivy. Unfortunately, we will not be able to copy this and target Ivy because we'll kill it if it's a 2/1. So we'll have to refrain from that. But I do believe it's worth it. Because it is red, and we're gonna, like I said, we can bank a lot of mana with red, especially with our Urabrasks, Bergies, and our Ashlings of the world. So there is the Ryle. So the verbiage, of course, is great. So it's that 1 red. It's a sorcery, so that's also kind of a downside. But you get that draw. We just love to keep gassing up. Instant speed here. For this expedite, target creature gains haste until end of turn. Fantastic. Draw a card. What a bomb. I love these, they not only let us draw and cantrip into a draw, they give us a benefit like haste. That's fantastic. Really good for our Bloom Tenders of the world and such. Ancestral Anger. This one is amazing because it gives trample and a draw. We love it. Renegade Tactics. No kind of obviously reward for the creature you target. It just would lose its ability to block, which we would probably be attacking for that turn. But then again, you could also set this up where maybe an opponent only has a single blocker, and it's well, you're not blocking this turn, okay? So, but we'll still draw, and it's fine. Kind of interesting. Obviously, Crimson Wisp is just like Expedite. The creature will also become red for whatever reason till end of turn. but it will gain haste and draw a card. That's fantastic. These 2 red spells are the ones I had mentioned earlier. These are like the Meek, the Mighty of the Meek. Basically, that one I believe just provides trample. It also provides a 1/0 buff if it was a mouse, but it's red, draw a card. And this one's from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It's 1/1 first strike, also draw a card. Not bad at all. And then I found this one in my Jumpstart collection. I was just like, let's really try to focus on red, because when you have like some certain components going, you really want red. You just have an abundance of red mana. And so Fist of Flame, it just definitely fits that bill. And also we can get a nice little buff there too. So really good for our Zadas. You know, we can definitely get busy and like make everything trample in 1/0 for each card we draw in this turn. It can get kind of out of hand. These are very strong cards, obviously. Charge Through is really nice. So we definitely will also go into the green. We'll sift into that green too, because that will buff things. So green spells are important too for us. And of course, they just will draw that card, which is beautiful in target. Trash the Town. This one kind of snuck up on me because I thought it was kind of literally trash. For Trash the Town, it's not as bad as I thought. This actually, so you do have to pay. You can't just cast it for a single green. You actually have to pay into one of these sprees, so you would have to have 2 mana. But what's nice about this one is instant speed, and actually for that 2, that creature that deals combat damage and gets through will draw 2 cards. So that's really sweet. It's not just 1, it's 2. So I was like, oh, that's a much better value. It is much better. And you have these really cool modes too. And these can all go onto a single target, right? I mean, you could spread it out if you wanted to, but you could also just still like trigger off our Vesuvian Duplimancy, for instance, and our frontline heroism if you just put it all into one creature to keep that single target going. Now here's Legolas's Quick Reflexes, and this is just absolutely bananas too. Of course, we know that this is just another good removal spell for us. It could be great for our Bloom Tenders to kind of get ahead on mana for a turn. It's just a really interesting card in general. And with Aragorn, it's just going to make any of our bodies a threat. And when they tap again, they're going to do damage to something. So we just love it. Really good stuff here. To a target creature, that is. And of course, that split second makes it, unable to be have any other spells put on the stack afterwards. And now we get some beautiful Modern Horizons 3 cards. So we're just getting through all the single target spells that are just new to us, right? So we have like MH3 cards here. We have like, Dustmourne cards, Bloombearer, they're all here. They're all working to make this archetype even funner and to go through more colors. So Bridgeworks Battle also just could be a land. You can play this as an untapped land by paying 3 life, or you could just target this as a removal spell. It's fantastic. This along with Stump Stomp are just amazing, right? Yeah, these 2 are just both good. And they're both good with Aragorn. This is kind of like a Metamorphose for Aragorn. As you can see, it just procs red and green too at the same time, which is really good. And it's just going to give us that buff. And then it's just going to basically be like a ram through without the, dealing over damage with a trample. So we just love that. Now here's a little deviation from our instants and sorceries, and it is worth it, and I'll explain why. So Curiosity is different from a card like Combat Maneuvers, I think, or some such as that. Another 1 mana blue enchantment aura that basically when you deal combat damage, you draw. This one is interesting enough because this does not say exclusively combat damage. It just deals damage in general. So you put this on an Aragorn, and when he starts pinging people with red spells, you're going to draw from that as well. And when you deal combat damage with him, you're going to draw cards as well. So Curiosity is one of those fantastic Aragorn cards, and I encourage you all to check it out. I think you'll love it in this type of archetype too. We're playing like a lot of red pinging. Of course, Ivy fits in so well here. She's gorgeous. Of course, you can see how nice this card is. It's just wonderful. It's beautiful for us targeting our other creatures and then having Ivy copy that and get the same benefit. So, of course, like a Curiosity that we target with Aragorn, all of a sudden we can go ahead and copy that and put it on Ivy. Just also a really good, mutate payoff, of course. This is Season of Growth. This just draws an abundance of gasoline. Whenever we have a creature come on the battlefield, you scry. Fantastic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. That's amazing. So that's just not only will like our expedites and crimson wisps get a card now, this will see it and be like, okay, here, take another, go ahead. It's like, oh, thanks, that's really great. So yeah, this is an amazing, and it's green, so it really gets into that buff zone for Aragorn. And then Vesuvan Duplimancy is, of course, just like one of those ones that we just kind of want to sit there and stare at it and just be like, wow. Let's pop up a Vesuvan Duplimancy and make a couple Aragorns, why don't we? And then really have a good time, like really, really have a great time. Or make a couple Zadas. It's just like kind of, whatever, make a couple Heroxinals. It's just like one-time target, and then all of a sudden you have another one, and it gets past legendary. It's not considered legendary anymore. So definitely a card to set up, but definitely what is interesting about this deck, and from goldfishing it too and playing it on Arena, is that in a 1v1 format, the brawl list I had was very tempo-y, and it would always kind of stick in, and have kind of an inevitability, and it would get there. This deck I think it's a little bit slower to set up, but you can just have a turn, like literally a real turn where everything's going off at once and you're just getting like mega value. And it's just like, wow, that's a lot of stuff, a lot of game actions. And you can imagine like setting up like a Vesuvan Duplimancy is slower, but once you have some pieces out there, you might just be able to win, might just be able to win the game on the spot. So definitely an interesting one for sure. Tamiyo is that card that comes around maybe every couple years, and it's a card that has to be experienced. It really does. And this is just kind of busted, right? And even like those timeless and vintage formats, because a Tamiyo that goes into a brainstorm, for instance, and you're just flipping this thing over into this other side, which is kind of whack. Apologize, people are going to be like, what are you doing pulling that out without a sleeve? Well, I'll be gentle. So basically, if you draw 2 cards additional to the one that you draw on a regular draw step, this thing will flip over. And really what you're getting at is that -7. So you just have to plus this a few times. And then once you do the -7, you're going to draw half your deck. Okay, so that's really like the major pull of this deck. And we'll definitely keep a Worldly Tutor. If we're in the opening hand and we have a Worldly Tutor, this is our target. And it's not even close. This is our target, and it's not a Ragavan. It's not a Bloom Tender, it's a Tamiyo. And we're just going to work our way up into this, and the game plan will be to ultimate. And once we ultimate, we can get into Urabrask, we can get into our Burgies, like one of those, maybe our Ashling, find one of those cards. And with so many cards, we can kind of get net positive with cards like, for instance, like Manamorphose. Those will definitely be like net positive for us. And we can kind of just start storming off, so to speak, and, really getting a ton of value. And like I said, one of those major turns that could just definitely kind of set the stage. That +2 is nice. It will just basically make creatures -1, -0 when they attack you in general. It might be for like all... It might be for all, let's see. Let's see here. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker, so they won't get that -0 if they attack other people, so that's fine. So how do we flip Tamiyo fast? Well, there you go. Draw on a turn, play a Faithless Looting with Tamiyo on the battlefield, and you flip it. It's like kind of that easy. Faithless Looting does this, Brainstorm does this. Let's see, I haven't put it there, but Aspiring Spike kind of educated us on this about a couple of years ago when MH3 came out, where was it, a year ago? It's hard to tell. Magic Time kind of warps your mind a little bit, but I did hear him discussing basically if, for instance, you have swung with a Tamiyo, you've drawn for your turn already, basically you can go your Manamorphose. Manamorphose would draw you a card, and then you can pop that remaining mana to pop your Clue, and then you have a flip Tamiyo as well. So a couple ways to go at it, and we definitely have those payoffs in this deck. So it's definitely playing like kind of modern-y like that, where you definitely get those very powerful play lines, and those cards that kind of enable those play lines as well. kind of immediate gratification. Here's the Worldly Tutor. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle and put the card on top. Nice little instant speed there, and we can just go find our Tamios or whatever else we want. I suppose like another good target for like our Worldly Tutor could be like our Narset. Narset is just a nice one in general, to be honest. Even like, you can imagine if you had like an Expedite or Crimson Wisp, maybe you'd want to get like your Dreadhorde Arcanist going as well. And then to go ahead and recast your Worldly Tutor and kind of get value from that, from your Dreadhorde Arcanist. It just depends what you want to do. Here's your Manamorphose. That was kind of the one we were just discussing. Add 2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool and draw a card. Just a beautiful cantrip. Also procs Aragorn for that ready greed, so it's fantastic. Here's Ragavan. So of course, Ragavan, we're coming into like our creatures. This is our feature of our creatures. So Ragavan is just that nice 1-drop that kind of can get in there. Like I said, we definitely going to have to play some good, strong 1-drop, 2-drop creatures because we're going to have so many ways to target things, and we're going to have targets. I mean, we could target our opponent's things, but if it would benefit us, we'd prefer to have the targets be for us. So here's Ragavan. Nice one. It's just a 1-drop, 2/1. When it connects, we create a treasure, and we get to exile the top card of our opponent's library, and we play it till end of turn, cast it. And you can dash this thing too, which is kind of a nice little evasion. So I love that too. That can just have so many different modes. Okay, here's the Bird of Paradise. This one's fantastic. Of course, this is just like our nice accelerants here, and we don't have to play too many because we have so many other spells, but of course the bird is great because you get 1 mana of any color. That's just beautiful. It's just a nice 1-drop. Additionally, like your Delighted Halflings are just going to be so stellar as well, and man, these cards are just beautiful in general. These nice shiny cards, so nice to have. So that would cast our legendaries. It can add colorless, or add 1 mana of any color to cast a legendary spell, and it would be uncounterable with a bomb. Probably need a Cavern of Souls in this deck, so we'll probably pop in a Cavern. And I think that will be on the list, but I just don't think I'm presenting it today in this pile. But we'll definitely have a Cavern for sure. Bloom Tender, this is that beautiful 2 mana spell. How efficient is this? It's just crazy. And if we have our, add mana based on the amount of colors we have among permanents. So with Aragorn on the battlefield, this will tap for 4. 4 color amongst those permanents. Add 1 mana of that color. Beautiful. So much mana for such a low investment. Here's Ral. This is just like our sick legendaries that are just absolutely absurd, that just have some serious modes and card advantage built into them. Like this has so many modes, like when it flips. I don't know if I want to flip too many cards for the video's sake, but this one will reduce your instants or sorceries. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you can flip a coin. If you lose the flip, Ral Monsoon Mage will deal 1 damage to you. That's an unfortunate thing. If you win the flip, though, you may exile Ral. If you do, return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. And basically, he accrues counters, Planeswalker counters on him based on the amount of instants or sorceries that were cast prior to him being flipped. So this thing can like enter as like a 4. Sometimes if you really go storming off, you could have him kind of ultimate immediately, which would be really insane, but definitely within the realm of possibility too. I guess we just see it. But I actually typically use this in a 1-versus-1 format for its -2 because it's a really nice way to kind of ping mana dorks and other pesky little creatures. And you would, with the Aragorn on the battlefield, you also draw. So I do really like the -2. I think that's very, very appropriate. Obviously, the +1 is just that your instants or sorceries will still cost 1 less to cast, which is nice. And the -8, exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells from among them this turn without paying their mana cost. Beautiful. Just beautiful, guys. Cast, too. I love that verbiage because Aragorn loves cast. So the more things that say cast in the verbiage, like casting for free, it's just really good. And I mentioned the Dreadhorde Arcanist before, but it's beautiful in this deck. You can imagine it's kind of like O'Hare, where it really loves to get buffed by Aragorn's power, and then it can just kind of be free to cast whatever the heck it wants in the graveyard. When it attacks, you can get your Escape to the Wilds, and then you'll reproc Aragorn, and it's just a major, major value. And it has Trample. I just love this card. Really good stuff. Here's our new guy. our fear of missing out. What a great like just kind of glue here for those low cost creatures that we can kind of target, build our graveyard, give the Dread Horde Arcanist and the Narsets extra attacks, and really punish the opponents for being like greedy and putting like Time Warp in their graveyard, for instance, and letting us just live long enough to like kind of get this through a couple times, and we'll be good. We'll be really good. Here's Snapcaster Mage. This is probably the most favorite card I have out of the deck. I'm kind of surprised like how much I've grown to love this card, just because I just like never knew really. It's, it has a history, of course, but I really didn't know how strong it was until I started playing this card, and it really is good here. You can play this at instant speed. You can have so much flexibility to get into your graveyard and get more value, get more casts. It's just one of those cards that really is special, and I really enjoy the Snapcaster. We do have kind of a bit of a wizard tribal here too, so you're gonna kind of see some wizardy stuff, which is nice because we're gonna play cards like Flame of Anor, so it kind of really fills into that kind of mindset, and really gets into the good wizards. And these are just good wizards. This thing is just going to double up, our triggers for casting instants or sorceries for cards that, will benefit from that, such as an Aragorn, who definitely has cast triggers. And if they're instants or sorceries, they'll be doubled. So it's really cool. And this also has Magecraft. So whenever you cast or copy, so copy too. So that's kind of fun. This will get 1/1 until end of turn, so it's fantastic. Definitely a scary card. Here's Gutter Snipe. This is also a very scary card. Definitely with Aragorn on the battlefield and us doing like our red things. We don't even necessarily need Aragorn to win. Like I said, we just flip a Tameo, for instance, and find a Gutter Snipe, we're probably going to win because we're just going to have that freedom. And like I said, we can go mana positive, like with Bergie and Urabrask on the battlefield with a lot of the cards. So with a Gutter Snipe on the battlefield, we can just keep casting and kind of pinging our opponents to death. Fiery Inscription will also be kind of similarly involved with this. So just also we'll see the instants or sorceries that are being cast, and we'll do 2 damage to each opponent. It's really good. Each clause is very good, and obviously very good with O'Hare, Oxenol. This is Bergie, of course. We were kind of talking about Bergie. And whenever we cast a red spell, or any spell in general, you'll add red. And until end of turn, you don't lose this mana steps and phases end. Well, I mean, that's the major juice. Like, that's what we're talking about here. So, I mean, we'll get a Bergie down, and Bergie has been so good, guys. This card is just amazing to, like, just cast on, turn 3, turn 2. And if it lives, you're going to get a great Aragorn turn because, you can cast Bergie. You'll be able to cast Aragorn. You'll be floating red. You'll be getting into those cheaper red spells. You'll be kind of storming off to a degree. So it's just a really nice one. It just kind of expounds and expounds. Same thing with Urabrask. It just kind of fills that void there. Gives us that nice little value for continuing our mana production as we cast instants or sorceries. This one will deal damage to a target opponent upon those casts, and then we can flip this thing into the great work. It does 3 damage to a target creature in their target opponent and their creatures, which is nice. The next phase is creating like 3 treasures, and the next phase is like you can get from all the graveyards. You can just start casting. I don't think it exiles. Does it exile on the chapter? Let's see. You may cast from any graveyard. It doesn't exile them. When you do. Yeah, but when you do cast it from those graveyards, they are exiled. So interesting. And then it just starts all over again. So it's fantastic. Here's Ashling, just another you could probably just play Ral as your commander, right? And you can imagine like a Bergie or a Brass Ashling deck, as you play those in the 99. And you'll be very cool. You'll be very happy about that. You're just going to be casting like a lot of red spells and getting a lot of value from that and kind of sifting through your deck. So yeah, this one's a really nice one too, of course, Ashling. And this one goes from cast or copy. So we're going to be copying a lot of spells, so you might want to be careful about decking yourself. But you're having a lot of looting with that, especially with all like the Zadas and stuff. I don't think you'll deck, but that's what's great about Commander is you have 100 cards, right? So you do the caster copy, you can loot, and then the second time that resolves, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. It's fantastic. If it's the third time, add 4 red. What a bomb. What a bomb, guys. Fable the Mirror Breaker, just for being an awesome red spell that can just get into our graveyard, help our Mizzet's Masteries, make a token. We love tokens, and then we can copy our things as well. We just love it. Prismari Command will also loot and give us that little rampage. We can just have so many different modes that we can just benefit from here. And it's basically just like a blue, you know, and a generic mana, or like basically blue-red when we had those like spell reducers and such, like Growl. Here's Glimpse the Impossible, just like an absolute top deck. Like, if we're ever top decking, this is going to be just the mega card with Aragorn on the battlefield, because we're going to Aragorn to trigger, and then we're going to get 3 looks at, like, you know, it's a lot more gas. So it's just great for us. Love Glimpse. Mizzet's Mastery was mentioned. This will go into get our cards from the graveyard. It's just good stuff. You can overload this thing too, which would be beautiful. And those are all casts. Keep in mind that this basically, you cast the spell itself to proc Aragorn, and then when you pull that card out of the graveyard or cards, you cast each of those as well. So it's just more casting triggers. Beautiful. Big Score. This is a riskier one because you have to discard, so it's not the best top deck. But it is worth it, because like in the mid game, you're just going to get so much value off of it. You're going to get some mana production. This, like I said, can be reduced for like your Rouse of the world. And then if you have that kind of reduction, you're just going to be able to play more spells, get ahead on mana and cards. It's fantastic. Escape to the Wilds is top tier. Just probably one of the better cards in our deck, like easily, because you're going to be able to ramp with this thing, play an additional land. You're going to get 4 more looks, and they stick around till your next turn. It's just a beautiful, beautiful card, guys. Rishkar's Expertise. This one is just a beautiful card too. The additional cast is crazy. You know, we might have the unfortunate part where we're just like have a silly Ragavan on the battlefield, and we might only get 2 cards from this. But we will still get a 5 cast to be cast from our hand without paying this mana cost. So that's definitely the pull. Doesn't feel as bad, does it? But if we have an Aragorn and we proc it with this and it resolves, that's 9 cards. And that's a lot of selection, so we love that. Swords of Plowshares, just to like destroy or exile a creature like very easily for one white mana. Bolt, just to go to a creature, whatever we need, clear the way for Ragavan, whatever. Just easy money here. Flame of Enor, just for all wizards, especially with your Snapcaster Mage. This is crazy. You'll be able to like take out a Sheldred and then draw 2 cards. It's great. Yeah, I don't like Sheldred. Sheldred's evil. An Offer you can't refuse. This is our sweet blue mana counter suite. So this is there's I just love the 1 mana ones. I feel like you get so much value from these, like the Swan Song, so good, and then like your Strict Serenade, they're so nice. All these 1 mana blue spells that can like counter multiple different things. It's so cool. Your Psycho Riff for your big haymakers, not counter spell, but just like a big haymaker spell. Mana Drain, just for being the best counter spell in Magic. Flare of Denial. This was just in the one that we'll be very happy to see any non-token blue creatures on our battlefield, and we can just go ahead and, you know, for instance, a Snapcaster Mage, and then all of a sudden we're just feeling very good. You know, so that's fine. And I believe we might have a Pact in here as well. I like 3 steps because it can be other things too. It can like work with our Vesuvian Duplimency, and all of a sudden we'll have 2 copies of things, because we'll copy the thing, and then because it's a single target. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control. I'd like to know how that works exactly. The thing about Vesuvian Duplimency is that I know like the thing, that targeting of it in general makes that non-legendary creature. So I'm not so sure that 3 steps will work in that manner, but what I do like is it's just an elective spell. It doesn't have to be a counter spell. That's really what I'm going for. And it can build our graveyard if we needed to. So it's just very multifaceted, and I feel it's perfect for this deck, and will kind of never be a dead card as long as we can live long enough. Okay, and here's a Seagate Restoration. So this is the really nice draw spell, and we've come to our lands, the land portion of the deck. So yeah, Seagate can be pretty good. Sometimes you can really just, take a turn and go for it and, really get ahead on cards. And that's kind of the way we kind of primarily want to utilize it. It'd be a good Mizzet's Mastery hit as well. And I believe the other channel land we're playing is Shatter Skull Smashing. Then we have like our various, these are all the just rainbow lands here. Just nothing too crazy. Just got your Plaza, City of Brass, Forbidden Orchard. These are definitely like very important because they are just easy mana fixing in a 4-color deck, and they don't come into play tapped. So they're just all fantastic. So Mana Confluence, Command Tower, Plaza is very good, City of Brass, Forbidden Orchard. I will add like a Cavern of Souls too. Then you play a couple like these, triomes, not too many, just a couple. And then you add like a bunch of fetch lands here. Fetch lands and surveil lands and your shock lands. And that's pretty much like kind of like your modes. Like that's all you really need. And you have Otawara, Breeding Pool, Sokenzan for more tokens. It's fantastic. Temple Garden, and there's the Shatter Skull and Disciple. So you definitely have to be kind of selective with your channel lands and such, because you have so many colors, and it's, you kind of have to kind of resist the feeling to go hardcore on all like the channel lands and all the multi-face land cards like Amiria's Call and Turn Timber Symbiosis, because you have to be kind of really selective. And I feel like it kind of definitely got there like with the Disciple. I think that's a good one because of Aragorn's buff, and we can definitely buff something up and get a lot of cards out of it. So overall, that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed this deck tech, and let me know your thoughts about what you're building with Storm and maybe with some of these cards. See if there's any cards that you really enjoy from this grouping of cards. I'm sure there is. I think Zod is a pretty popular commander. But yeah, this is the deck. It's got a lot of kind of mid, like nothing higher than 6, I think, casting cost, which I think is where it wants to be. It's kind of like hovering in that. If you were to open up a curve on this, it definitely has like a nice 1, 2, 3, where the 1 is just going to be, clearly the most, and the 2 will be the second most. Your 3 drops will be the third most. I think it kind of breaks itself into the 4. 4s, I think, similarly pretty represented, and maybe 5 and 6 are kind of the ones that kind of stumble off. And, that's kind of how it looks. But yeah, that's the deck, and I cannot wait to give this a go. I just need to get a couple more cards here. This one was quite an adventure. It took my mind in a couple directions, but I feel like it's pretty cool. And I'm playing cards that I feel like always belonged, but I just didn't have I don't really able to, there's so many cards, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around all of them, especially if you're not familiar with them. But I feel like this is kind of the avenue for success. So yeah, just some nice, these are just great, these surveil lands. You're playing all the surveil lands for the graveyard, kind of building that graveyard selection for our Arcanist and our set, and also our Mizzet's Mastery, and there's the Disciple. It's beautiful. So, all right, guys, hope you have a great one. Let me know how you're doing. Take it easy. Bye-bye.